the department, like to which it has molded me like to what I am today. So yeah, let's take over the session. I think a few more people are joining. So can I start the session, ma'am? So is that fine?
Can I wait for some minute?
I think we have 2 more minutes. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I think we have 2 more minutes. So let's wait for.
We have a formal welcome speech. Raghavi.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Raghavi, you can start the formal address.
Honorable guests, respected staff members, and my dear friends, good evening, everybody. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you for the Alumni Webinar Series 1, Day 2, conducted by the Department of Information Technology. At this moment, I would like to thank the staff members of the department for organizing this webinar series. If your action inspires others to dream more, to learn more, and to become more, you are a leader. With immense pleasure, I welcome the guest speaker of the day, our alumni, Mr. Abhinandan. Welcome, sir.
Thanks, Raghavi. Yeah.
To begin this webinar, I request Pooja Gayatri of second year BSc IT to deliver the welcome address.
Good evening, everybody. It gives me immense warmth and great pleasure to grace all of your presence in this webinar series. I would like to introduce the guest speaker of the day, Mr. Abhinandan M. Mr. Abhinandan pursued MSc Software Systems from our college, who is presently working as software engineer at Stream. He is a quality assurance engineer working on manual and test automation across various cloud platforms and solutions. He has done internships at various organizations like CartRabbit as digital marketing specialist, Goldman Sachs as summit analyst, Flycar Technologies as live chat expert and analyst, and Bennett Coleman and Co Limited as reader relationship executive. Mr. Abhinandan is going to address us on the topic careers in cloud platforms. Looking forward to a great session. Thank you all.
Thank you, Pooja. All right, without any further delay, I request guest speaker of the day, Mr. Abhinandan, to address the virtual gathering.
Thanks, Pooja and Raghavi. So by this, as we are like on time, so I would like to start the session. So I believe like all the 3 year students, like first, second, and third year are there. So actually, I have curated the content to in such a way that like it could suit for most of you. Like say if you are in third year, so you can just follow or just take some points and like you can decide what you can how to prepare your resume or like which companies to focus on and like any specialized designation or like jobs which may feel that suits you. So I'm just giving my tips based on my experience, like what is the current industry standard. So I'll try to be bilingual in most of the time, and please feel free to like just stop and like ask any questions that you have, because me just giving lecture or like just going on and on is not going to help. And like I know I'm also like kind of Zoom fatigued actually, to be frank, like long video calls and like long online sessions. I know that it's not going to, I mean, it would be boring or like it's too difficult to focus after some time. So just feel free to like pass anytime and just ask any questions that you may wish to. Don't just ignore or like feel bad that am I going to ask a silly question or not, something like that. Just feel free to like ask any kind of question from any year. Like let's say if you are a first year and like you don't know like what would you do after 3 years or so, like, or what is the industry standard or like what would be the industry trend, just feel free to like interrupt at any point of the meeting and ask. And I will also take a dedicated like 15 minutes Q&A session. Before starting, like I just want to check few things. Am I being so fast? If any one of you could reply, that would help.
No, sir, not at all.
Okay, fine. I saw on the yeah, fine. Thank you. And am my voice is like clearly audible?
Yes, sir. It is audible.
Okay, fine. Thanks. Okay. So let me share my screen. Okay. So one thing is like I have not prepared like a very detailed presentation with like bullet points and stuff that says like if you do this, or like with the numbers and stuff that says like, hey, this is going to be the trend, these many number of job openings are there, or something like that. So I have just prepared a like very small presentation. So just it's more of an image oriented way, and like so that you could picturize in your mind like what would be the job nature, or anything like that. So I'll be covering mostly on the like careers in cloud, and like what is the current industry trend, or like how the or where the industries are looking forward or going forward. By industries, I mean like most of the Fortune 500, like the banks, HSBC, or like any, let's say, I think most of you would have known about Fortune 500. So it is the top 500 billion companies in US, US and other parts of the world, that contributes to the Fortune 500. So before getting into cloud, I just want to like make a point like what was happening before this all this cloud boom came into picture, and like what is even currently happening in few of these companies. So how the IT infrastructure, or like what are the technologies, or like what makes it for the companies to change to the cloud. Okay, so let's assume like let's take an example of our say our computer labs. So few of second and third year might have gone to the lab in your previous years, and like first years, don't worry, you would also wish to see that soon. So let's think of our lab setups. Okay, so just think of a computer block. You have three labs. So let's say on the first floor, second floor, and third floor, if that is not changed yet. So you have three labs, and like you have all the desktops and systems running together, and you have something called a your individual user log into those machines, and like work or do experiments anywhere, like at least within the lab premises. So these hardwares and stuff is maintained within our lab premises. So basically, the servers, the CPU, and stuff exist within our premises, and the lab assistants have to take care of maintaining the servers, hardwares, and whatnot. So this is just in case of a simple college lab setup. Now think of an organization, or like a very big or like a very big organization. So there would be tons of users. There would be end user who don't know like what is going behind the database, or like there would be just a data entry operator who just wants to enter the data, or there will be some tech engineer, or like full stack developer who needs access to more resources and DB. So maintaining this many environments, like physical machines, databases, servers, and whatnot, like network. So all these were being taken care by the network administrators or the system admins within their premises. So by on premise, I mean it's not within like a simple singular geographical location. It may span across like say multiple places. So let's take an example. Let's say even from my experience in Goldman, I see that the servers were present in US or in some other locations, but it was maintained within the organization. I mean, like Goldman itself would maintain all those servers and stuff with a dedicated team. So now cloud comes into picture. So what are the uh, what functionalities does these cloud companies offer, or like why enterprises or like organizations chooses cloud? So basically, cloud you will definitely you will have all these whatever the networks and physical machines, everything taken care by the vendor, where all the hardware and stuff are running in the data centers, or like it's taken care by the providers, and the end user just have to maintain, like not even maintain, just have to worry about their actual problem. Say, let's say I have some like my website is going to get like 1 lakh hits, or like 1 million hits in a day or so. Now I don't have to worry about like would my server be able to handle that incoming traffic. I can just add a AWS load balancer and like leave it to that to like take care of the networking stuff, or the what to say, or the traffic stuff. So those kind of things are mostly on the hardware side. Let's say I have like 2 TB worth of 2 or 4 TB worth of data now. Now I want more space, so I don't have to like go physically buy a hardware and like plug into the server or maintain like that. I can just click in a single like upgrade my storage, and it would be seamlessly provided by the vendor and stuff. So like these kind of flexibilities make the organizations to adapt cloud, so that like the risk handle this that is to be handled by the organization is also reduced. So let's say when there is a downtime due to network issue or something, so they don't have to spend their internal resource to worry about all those issues to handle the downtime. Rather, if you give it to the cloud vendor, they are going to do the job for you. Only thing is you have to pay. So so slowly, this migration has started, say we can call it around 12 13, and early adopters were very few people. So now only slowly these enterprises are migrating their own whole of the infrastructure to the cloud, and it's not a say simple thing. So it's not that hey, I'm going to migrate it within a few days or so. No, it's an ongoing migration and it would take years. So until they wholly cut down their on-premise infrastructure and systems, so it's going to take some years, and that's where the cash is. So that's where these startups, most of the startups and data warehouses or cloud data solution providers are making their millions over there. So let me just start over. So this is the just starting point. So far, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. Okay, so this image, why I put is you just have to stand out from the crowd, or think out of the box. So why should you think out of the box or stand out from the crowd? Okay, so let's say you complete your UG course, or you complete your UG course and go to any of the interviews, and what they would say hey, what skill does you have, or what you show your resume and you put out the same skills of list of skills like programming languages known Java, C++, and then DBMS. So if you look at the 60 people of the 60 resumes of the same class, or within the same most of the your other department students, or your friends or something, the change or the difference that you might see in the resume is quite less. What is one feature or one skill that is going to make your resume stand out from the other students? So let's say if you put some skill, you have a certification on say a basic certification from cloud computing on GCP, or say you have completed a basic course on AWS Lambda functions or something like that. So if you are adding that skill or something in the resume, so that is going to add a value, or highlight your resume such that hey, okay, this guy or girl has done his homework and he has put some efforts to know what is happening. So he may be a better fit in a greater position than the normal developers. I mean, by normal, I mean I'll get into that part later, but just note on this point. Okay, now coming to this part. So these are just the icons of major cloud providers that is out there in the market or in the enterprise segment. So as you can see, you have AWS, you have GCP, this is the GCP one, you have Azure and Salesforce and Oracle Cloud. So Oracle Cloud is strictly for the database infrastructure that they handle, and slowly they are gaining into other space as well. And if any one of you had followed TikTok may be acquired by Oracle or Azure. So can anyone try to guess what these two logos stands for? Yeah, I mean, not immediately Googling it at least, or just a guess, probably. So I could give some clue. One is from a major Chinese tech firm, or a Chinese billionaire. This logo is from a Chinese firm. So anyone could guess? Okay, so this is the icon for the Ali Cloud, founded by the Alibaba giant Jack Ma. And this is for the IBM. This icon is for the IBM Cloud. So you have these many major a very good cloud provider. So you can ask. You guys have very well using these Google Cloud Suite, G Suite for Google Meet and stuff. You can ask does these also fall under cloud? Yeah, definitely. And you might also know that. So they fall under G Suite G Suite offering by the Google. So that's something different. And you have the whole platform offering from Google called as GCP. So if you look at the market share, AWS started first, and like they are in the business back like 2007 or 8, and like they are leading now in the sense like they have almost 50+% of market share. And then Azure saw that the AWS is making millions, and like why not make some money than relying on the ad revenue. So they thought like why not we also get there, and like Azure relying on as it has already supplied. A bit slow to start on the cloud front. Say they started very late by 14 or 15. By that time, Amazon had gained most of the market shares. But Google know that like how to solve the problems. It has like a lot of infrastructure, and they thought like why not put the infrastructure to use and make some money than relying on the ad services. So as you know, Google gets its revenue from the ad, and since there are like tons of regulations that are coming into different parts of the world like EU and Australia, so they realized that they were not just survive with the ad revenue. So they thought like why not make some revenue in the cloud and like make some more money. So they shifted their focus to cloud by 14 and 15, and like it was in the baby steps for first 2 years. By 2018, when Thomas Kurian took over as the CEO, since then it has gained some like rapid attention and like rapid growth. Even the last Q3 of the Google Cloud revenue was like so higher, and they would be catching up with like Azure and Amazon very fast. Like by few years down the line, that Google Cloud will be the leading provider, because like most of the banks, IT, or like say telecom companies are relying on Google Cloud. Salesforce is like a strictly domain-oriented cloud of its own. So Salesforce just offers like a basic its own CRM, and like they hosted their own bunch of services in their whole cloud. And Oracle, so Oracle basically they are in the database business for like a lot of years, and like they are incurring a lot of cost for their database servers and stuff like in millions. So what they thought is like as the other vendors are started providing their database solutions, so Oracle thought like, hey, we should also exist in the cloud, and like they are strictly a database service. I mean, they would offer services like say basic few functionalities that may be related to the database, but not a full-fledged cloud platform like AWS or GCP. IBM Cloud has its like own business applications. I have not worked on IBM, and like Ali Cloud is like I hope it has similar features as other cloud vendors. But this Ali Cloud's market share is like very less. It has like say less than 1%, because it's mostly in the Asian markets, and it is yet to break to the US market. Okay, so these are the like major cloud providers that are like the cloud giants that you have. And like let's get into the actual topic of like how or like what careers that could that I can choose, so that I make it to the cloud, or like I catch up with the race, or like I stay ahead in the technology than being a normal mainframe developer, or like a old school thing, which are still being done, but slowly those jobs maybe like worn out. So what I mean to say is like, let's say if you get into some like big service based startups or something, they would just assess you, and like they would put you in some project like which you may not like, or which you may not expect to happen. Like say you might have a good Java skills, or like you may be good in web application development, but unfortunately you are put into some like a mainframe development. So mainframe development, since I don't want to get into the technicalities, but it's like a old, you can think of a old BB kind of a thing, or like a old school technology which is like outdated, which means like it may work only in the organization. Like if you come out of that services, or like you can still be a mainframe developer, but technology, or like are you catching up with the technology? Then the answer is no. And are you paid generous enough for being a mainframe developer? The answer would be like comparatively yes. Whereas let's say, hey, I'm being a DevOps engineer, like I'm being a cloud specific engineer or a cloud solution architect in any one of this, and like your skill set will be like high. And as the market is like just booming and gaining attention, your career path or like switch over would gain like more more value to as and when you move along your career. So let's say you being a cloud engineer or like let's say a solution architect. So you may get into work with any one of the cloud, and being a solution architect, you can uh, be an independent consultant also, or like let's say you put just add one skill in your LinkedIn, and like people will be coming and searching for you than you going and searching for any of the jobs. So I'll get into that certification parts later and move to the next slide. Like what exactly skills or like what do I learn? What do I need to learn to make it to the cloud or like any of the designations that I have mentioned? So when you take a look at the businesses. So basically, they might have different part of teams or like segmentations like this, like development, QA, quality of assurance, and then you have operations, and then you have DevOps. So what specifically say differentiates between a developer and a quality assurance and a DevOps? So I would just give a basic thing. So let's say can someone give me an example of a product or like anything that you may seem to develop? So let's say a product like Ola or Uber. So can someone suggest a product like that, which you may build or like you that strikes into your mind? Or any organization name so that I can give a classified example, like what happens in each of these things. Any name, come on.
Rapido.
Okay, fine. Yeah, Rapido. Let's take an example of a Rapido. So now let's concentrate on the development. So basically what happens, so I hope like the final years might come across the paper called project management. So basically what Rapido solves is like it's a two-wheeler ride sharing platform like a Ola or Uber. So basically if you look at the user requirement phase, so basically it's like any two-wheeler holder can log in at a certain point of time and offer their rides for the other users. So that is basically the problem that you're trying to solve. So that problem solving phase, or like once the requirements are put into paper and like finalized, so the development starts. So what does the developers do? So they try to like write code for like, okay, handling the incoming request, assigning rides, and then so they basically focus mostly on the solving the problem technically. So develop make sure that okay, when an when a user clicks on request ride or find a ride, so the app does the job and then say just okay, the user finds this ride nearby. Okay, so that part is taken care by the developer. Now, what does quality assurance do, or like typically should do? So let's say right from the basic point of entry point of the app, say like you installing from the Play Store, like you giving up a sign up or login from the first place, the quality assurance has to make sure that all these functionalities or like from the end to end, like say right from login to till the ride is confirmed. So all the quality requirements are met, or like to say basically if the app works fine. For example, if you give a request and then the request is taking so much time, or like it just times out. So what happens in that? What error message do you get, or do you get any exceptions that just crashes the app or like something? So those things are taken care by the QA things. Now comes the DevOps part. So this DevOps, you may have heard the word, but might not know what exactly these guys do. Like what the hell does DevOps means, and like is it equivalent to developer, or like is it equivalent to QA, or like what DevOps does? So basically DevOps, as you see in the diagram, like fits into all these three different parts of the quadrants. So even operations, in the sense like let's say the some management guy or like some board member or someone wants to know the numbers, like how many rights has been provided today or something like that. So what DevOps exactly does is like you have the code written by the developer, and then which is sorry guys, and then which is tested by the QA guys. So what happens after next? And that then only like you just align these process with the cloud that I have mentioned before. So let's say you are developing this software or like you are developing a similar system in your local environment. So what would you do typically? So you would have a backend, basically you would have a front end, and like you would have the DB for like to store the data, and let's say for like internal testing or something you would have it in your local environment. But what if you want to say send it across to like share it with your friends or like share it with your department or something? So you would try to put it into a common space. Say even your you can put it into the your same local machine itself, and then open the network preferences so that others could like make access to the thing. Now think it of like a Rapido real-time environment. So you, as we said before, like I don't have to like worry about the networking stuff or like the hardware stuff, while there are cloud players who could provide me the same. So what basically happens is like all the so some terms maybe like some internals will be like too technical, which I don't want to get into, like, but I'll just highlight few points. So let's say the written code is put into some version control or like some repository where the code exists, and then the QA is also taking this part and like, hey, certified this part. Okay, this part, I mean, the code, whatever is written, has passed some test, and like it can be put to the staging point. So now DevOps comes into picture. So what these DevOps does is like, as and when code is written and like tested, so they build a pipeline. So let's say, then comes then it also so let's say your deadline is like in a week for the Rapido app to be launched, and then you now right now you're working on Tuesday. So the QA guys report some bug on Wednesday. So what you have to do is you have to fix like say an independent part, and then you can push the changes, and then that changes has to be reflect to all the end users, and it has also to it should also make it to the production. So within these things, all the manual things may be done only once, but since it is a continuous process or like continuous integration, it cannot be manual for quite a long time. So what these DevOps job comes into play is like you automate these pipelines. So let's say when there is a code change happening, or like when a simple bug is fixed, or like when some new feature comes in, so automatically the pipeline picks up all the changes and like do all the works behind, and ultimately what you say is like an end screen. So sticking with the example of Rapido, so let's say you try to replicate or like do a Rapido project in your for your college project, you try to do locally, and let's say when you go for a feedback or a review from the staffs, so what they would say is like, hey, no, this thing does not work as expected, or this could be better. Or what you have to do is like you have to change the code, and then like you have to do the build again, or like refresh the projects again, and you have to come through the next part, and then you have to like come with your laptop and show it to your staff. So what if you have deployed whole of these in a cloud? Okay, so you make changes and like you do all this stuff automatically, and just you provide an endpoint to the cloud. Endpoint in the cloud say, hey ma'am, I have deployed my solution in this URL, so please go and like you can check it out. You don't want me to like carrying the laptop or like waiting for you near the staff room, or like so something like that. So let's say you put all these things in the cloud, or like say build a, and then you provide an endpoint, so that is the work for everyone. So basically, DevOps does that job. I mean, in an enterprise way. So what they do is like they make sure that all these process behind the process are like automated or made easier, and then is easily available for any of the end users. So I'm pausing here, and like I would like to take some questions. I know like it may I have said some few Greek and Latin for the Greek and Latin terms for the first year also. Like I'm passing now to take some questions. Any questions related to this process, or like what happens in an organization, or like what is the process? Anything? Sorry guys, like few people have mentioned Alibaba. I haven't. I didn't see that. I was in my other screen. Sorry. Any questions? Only if you like ask any question, I may be like able to steer the meeting towards like if you had got the points that I have made or something. So just don't hesitate. Like please ask any. Don't think like it's going to be a numb question or something. Like ask any question that you have. Any third years? Okay, is DevOps is a process of whole project? Yes, definitely. So the question is from 19B8036 Pani Muthu. Yes, so basically DevOps is an integral part of like any project or like any software product that is going to come out or like is in existence. So yes, it's a DevOps is an integral part. It's in the middle, like it's if you look at the more detailed architecture diagram of like DevOps, it may sit at all places. So the DevOps guys may do even some development in case of very few in some scenarios to jump in. Say there is some network related issue or like there is some minor issue that is to be fixed. Like the DevOps guys may jump in there. Good. Will cloud replaced by Hyperledger, say for Fabric, Sawtooth, so that it would be more secure? Hiran, Vikram, and R. Hi, Hiran. Like, I'm not getting your question exactly. I have not come across the terms like fabric or sawtooth. So, if you could let me know like what those are, so that I may try to answer or like differ.
Sir, those
So,
are
is it something related to
private blockchain
security?
entrepreneurship.
Okay, so this is something related to the blockchain.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so basically, the blockchain use cases or the blockchain implementation differs on the use cases that the enterprises have. Say, for example, I'm not an expert in blockchain. I'm just sharing what I know. So one of my friends works in that space, and what I have seen is like they are trying to solve a supply chain problem by blockchain tools. And at least from my experience, I don't see any huge enterprises that are directly making use of the blockchain for now. They are into development or like they are still trying to solve the supply chain problem. But I am not an expert on that front, to be frank. So fabric or sawtooth, I am just hearing the terms now. So I give up that question. Sorry. So, any other questions? Will cloud replaced? Cloud cannot be replaced. That's for sure. These AWS, Google, or like Azure, they are going to stay for like another 30 years unless some rival comes with a super duper technology that is going to replace all this stuff. Cloud is here to stay for like another 20 to 30 years. That's for sure. Okay, fine. Let me switch back to the presentation. So you guys are still seeing my screen, right? Okay, I take it as a yes. Okay, fine. Now, okay, why I have added this slide? So let's say many of you might have this question. Hey, I am just doing my BSc IT or like a UG course. So would I be skilled to take up any of the jobs? Just a second, please. So would I be able to take up these jobs, or like where would I fit in the industry? So if any of you have such doubts or clarifications, then the answer is like no. So does degree makes a difference? Mostly no, in most of the product based organizations, because they don't take a look at your degree basically. So, and they think like what skills you have mostly, what skills that you have, or like what area of interest that you are looking for. So let's say most one thing that what I have seen the students or like the other people lacking when they design their resume is like when they put their career objective. So they might say like willing to work for an organization that gives me good career path by contributing blah blah blah. Yeah, correct. So yeah, you will like want to contribute to the organization, and like the organization also might look something from you. But what specifically are you focusing on? Like I say like most of the students might lack this, like where should I be, or like what should I be. So some people might just want to be a developer. Hey, they would know like, I have these many coding skills, or like I love to solve problems, so I have to be a developer, or like this suits me better. Yeah, so those people would be like kind of, they may take a safe board saying that I want only development. Then comes the second part. So I have studied this course. I know something. I am not sure if I am interested in development. And when some job offer like designation that mentions software quality analyst or a test engineer or a DevOps comes in, so should I take that? So that most of the students may face a dilemma in that. And to answer that, what I would say is like uh, if you are passionate about technology, in the sense like I want to know what is happening with the computers, I want to stay updated with the tech world, I know how things works, but I don't want to get my hands dirty by coding. So coding is not that piece of cake for me. Then come on guys, you have you can definitely fit into the testing and DevOps part. So testing part comes like what would typically be a tester's day, or like what would happen in the day-to-day life is like you may work across technologies, or like endpoints that are like relatively new. It's not that you would be working only on like some manual routine stuff or something. So it's more often like a interesting sub, like like if you want to like break the system, or like, hey, I'm going to throw shit at this web page and I would like to know like if it's functioning or not. So let's take an example of same Rapido thing that the one of the person has mentioned earlier. So you have a Rapido application. Let's say one of your friends has developed some application like Rapido. You just want to play around, like take it up and like play around and like throw shit at it, like give some do some weird stuff, like while requesting a ride, just clear the app, remove from recent apps, come back, see what is happening, or like when the rider is about to accept, or like when the notification comes, you just kill the app, or like you just make something with the phone and see how the system behaves. So if you want to do something like that, or like to break the system, or like to make fun with the technology, then definitely QA is like one interesting job for you. It up from the pay scale wise, you may be like, that depends highly on your skill set. Like say if you are able to automate few things, or like you have a basic coding knowledge, and then if you want to be a tester and like you can do automation, then it's going to be a big job. Why? Because at least from these cloud migrations, and as the enterprise are moving towards cloud, like all the existing technologies, or like the existing stack may be obsolete after some time. So what do I mean by the existing technologies or the stack is that like a few years before, you may have seen developers coding with like C++ or like VB, or like this C# for the web applications. Now all these things are made easy by these say, let's say for AWS Lambda functions, or like serverless functions, or like with the NoSQL databases that the cloud offers, like, or the JSON structure that these offers, like it has become easier to like develop an application and deploy it real time in the real time for the users, than like sitting in say in your own environment or own servers, like developing an C# application from the start. You have to take care of networking and stuff. Like those things are like is being taken care of by the cloud provider. So let's say just explore AWS Lambda functions or like AWS Lambda functions if you get a chance. Like what does these do, or like what are serverless functions, or like what is serverless computing. So just take a look at that. Like that might give you a basic understanding of like how things may work in the cloud than before. So basically, whatever that the old or whatever the existing technologies does is like they rely on the hardware or like the technologies to be say present somewhere, or like they are getting obsolete. I mean, as and when time changes, like things change and the technology changes. And like right now, the big name is the cloud, and like they offer a lot of functionalities and user friend in a more of a user friendly way. And like more efficiently, they focuses on solving the problems, like what problems to solve than how to solve, or like you taking worrying about the networking and stuff. So those things are again cared by the cloud itself. And coming back to the earlier point of like if QA would fit me better, yes. And as and when these technologies move towards the cloud, the technology gets changed, and the problem that they are trying to solve, or like the end user enterprise, or like the end user action is like kind of a different than earlier. So there are a lot of gaps to fill in, and like a lot of things to test, and like all things. I mean, even in the cloud, there are like a lot of security factors to be considered. Like, am I, even though the cloud provider gives me a way to implement the network better, so have I done that? So you can also there are places to go for a QA to like find and to just explore and say, hey, this is not working correctly, or like these are the things that may not work. So there are like a lot of resources required on that front, because like if everyone goes for a developer, then what is left? Solving problems may not alone like bring out an end product. You may need to have a QA person, you may need to have a DevOps engineer, or like a different whole set of teams together. You may want to have a marketing team or a technical sales team that does. So it's more of a combination of everything. So if someone says like or like if you feel dev is only the higher position, or like the others is not an is not a higher position as compared to them. No, that mindset has to be toned down, or like you can just ignore that mindset, because it ultimately, I mean, at the end of the day, if you are QA or like DevOps, it's not that you will be looked down upon. Rather, you are the most important person to go to when there is a problem or something. So that is mostly on the QA. And coming to the DevOps part of it, DevOps is like the openings for DevOps is also kind of more growing. And how do, let's say, how do you can ask a question like, how do I know if I am fit for the DevOps, or like what should I know better to be a DevOps? So let's say you learn, I think most of you would have come across this paper called OS and like the CPU architecture basically. So if those papers had interest, has if you have interest in those papers, or like has triggered the interest in you, and you feel like, hey, I am more interested or like passionate towards how multi-tenant architecture, or like multiple systems together in an environment work, than like trying to solve a null pointer, or like number format exception from any of the applications. So if that interest, or like that part of your interest, then yeah, very well, you may look for an option in DevOps. And also, let's say you are more of a like OS person, or like you love to work with Linux, or the commands impress you, or like I would love to say automate many few things. Say for example, you may want any day-to-day routine task that you have automated, like a basic task like opening a OS and like navigating it to a certain folder or something. Like if something like that interests you, or like if OS interests you, then Linux commands and other things interest you, then DevOps might suit you, because like most of these automation and scripts involve the OS level interaction. So let's say and also network also. So let's say going with the Rapido example, let's say you have written your code in the you have written your code and committed in the repository. Then the DevOps pipeline has to go check, go to a particular URL, check if that commit has been made, and then it fetches that commit and do a build job. Like basically, ultimately, it's behind the screens. It's the Linux commands that is going to be executed. So let's say it is going to fetch the repo. Okay, fine. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to build this. Okay, fine. And then I'm going to copy this folder to say a different location to my server where the user endpoint is pointing to. And then between you want to run some automated test, yeah, fine. And then deploy this endpoint and give me a green or something, say a response that says like process is done. So this will be the typical very basic overview of like what the DevOps process might look like. Okay, now moving to my last slide. So I have spoken a lot about these the technologies, cloud and other stuff. So where would I fit in, or like how can I? So let's say I have made up my mind to be a DevOps engineer or a QA engineer. So let's say where should I go looking for a job, or like I am relying on my college placements, and then if say I'm attending an interview, so would I be able to make it to the say a QA engineer or DevOps position? So that's highly relative or like individual stuff. Basically, when if you go attend the interviews from the service-based companies, what they would look for you is like mostly they would look for you if you are equipped with all the basic skills that you have learned so far. Say, do you have a good knowledge of programming? Do you have a good knowledge of databases? Do you have a good knowledge of like OS to some extent? So basically, so they would get to know like if you have everything. And then what typically happens after the onboarding or like you joining the firm is that like they would put you on hold. It's not that basically like as and when the HR analyzes you, oh, okay, this guy is good in Java, let's put him in direct development job. So that assurity you may not get in like service-based companies mostly. 90% I have not seen those offers being made. So what the process would be there, like you would be put it in a pool, or like you would be putting in a training program again where they might assess your skills again, and like based on that you might get some projects. So let's say you are highly say you are intellectual or like you are highly passionate in QA, but unfortunately the the internal assessment of the service based company decides that you are or like your profile fits in support. Mostly they would like put you into a support project, and they might give you a time, say like a few days to decide like if you are willing to join or not. You may decline the offer once or twice, but not every time. It's not that it will not be the case that like they have a QA requirement somewhere and you will be mapped to there. No, that process or like that freedom of choice in choosing your designation or like choosing your nature of work in service-based companies like very, very less. I mean, like it's very marginal or meager. So let's say you have decided to be a support, you have decided to be a QA engineer or a DevOps, and like you are going into any of these service-based companies, and they may promise you that you may get into any of these, but ultimately down after a few months of training or something, if you are rejecting 2 or 3 offers, they may put you in bench simply. Whereas in case of product-based companies, so the job designation would be upfront, or like the requirements would be like clearly upfront. So they would be looking skills in you, like, hey, are you interested in like testing specifically to say breaking the systems or testing, and like do you have any basic knowledge in testing, like, hey, have you what are the types of testing, are you able to explain what is regression testing, what is unit testing, blah blah. And then you might be able to see that in the upfront on their job requirement, and you may also like say build your resume based on that. And when there is a say an interaction or an interview with the product based firm's manager or the HR thing, you can clearly say upfront that I am looking for this job and like I am looking only for this. So what would be my day-to-day work look like, or like which domain I am going to work like? So that flexibility the product-based companies give you, and you can articulate that idea very well upfront. But that feasibility is not available in the service-based. And where to look for these product-based companies, or like where can I apply? That's a next thing to focus on. So once say you have one thing I would suggest or advise is like do not have a generic resume in all cases. That might work in most of the cases. I mean, to pass these to service based, that might fit in. But when you look at like if you are looking for any, or if you are applying for any specific jobs, or like say a company profile that has like clearly stated the requirements, so try to curate your resume with the requirement that matches of the company. So let's say if they are asking for a say a DevOps engineer, so just highlight the fact that hey, you have done I'm interested in like OS, or like I have a son, I have uh, looking for a DevOps job, or like or I may want to be a lead DevOps or something like that. You just have to like put something like it, and you can say like I'm interested in OS or like specific thing. So if you are looking for a DevOps and like DevOps position, and if you have mentioned your skills that you are equipped as like C++, C sharp, or like C++ for an example, so that might not click there, or else your resume, the chances of filtering the resume at that point is like very less. And one more thing, the insider information, or like something that I wanted to share is like in most of these product companies, or like that uses these GeekWire or like any such websites, you know what, the basic filtering is done by the AI. It's not that HR or someone is going to look at your resume and like look what you have written. So it's basically AI, or like a pre-built task that is looking for keywords. Like you can just feed in few keywords like what are these guys done, is there any GitHub link, or is there a LinkedIn profile for this guy or viewer. So is this profile worth is being determined by the AI before being taken, before even passed to the actual HRs or the technical guys who is going to take a look at your resume. So if your resume does not have these keywords, or like it's not curated, there are like very less chances that you may make it to the second round. So it's a basic thumb rule to like curate your resume, based on what the specific job requirement is. And one more thing is like you might have a say a dilemma, or like a doubt in your mind that I have done my UG, is my will the companies be interested in hiring me, or like will I be able to make it through the BE guys or like the PG guys? Definitely yes, if your resume is like standing out from the others. So that's why I have added this slide. So this degree does not matter. One example I would give you is like in 99% of the product-based companies, you might not even require to submit your the degree certificates, or like they might not even pay. I mean, take a look at like what degree you have done, rather than just the skills that you possess or have. So I have still not submitted my, or like my company has not even asked me what's the degree, or like have you got your convocation degree? Just show me, or like submit something like that. So yeah, you have those flexibilities, and like you have a lot of advantages over product-based company. I mean product-based company. So let me do a quick time check. So I'm already it's 4:07. I'm willing to take questions for the next 5 minutes. Okay, so I've already got one question on what cloud service are you working for, and how did you set your path to the career, Raghavi? Okay, thanks Raghavi for that wonderful question. So what cloud service are you looking for? So basically my job involved to look at like various endpoints in different clouds. So what our company, or like what the firm that I work does is like migrating the data. Say you have an Oracle database, or like any of the database that you are maintaining in your computer lab or something, and I want to migrate it to the cloud without downtime, to say like Oracle or like AWS. So we help in achieving those, solving those problems. Like, just give the connection details. We will do the migration for you. You don't have to worry about the risk of losing your database downtime or something like that. So since we support different endpoints in different clouds, so I got an opportunity to work with like 3 clouds. So, and I'm still working in all of the Azure, AWS, as well as in GCP. So AWS I have like not that much. I mean, I haven't delved fully, but right now I'm working on GCP, mostly on BigQuery, Spanner, and GCS. So delivering data to these services is verifying that the data is actually delivered to these things is my job. And answering to the second part, how did you set your path to the career? Okay, that's an interesting question. So if you look at my experience or something, I was sure that dev is not my piece of cake, or like I was sure from the beginning that I'm not going to be a developer. It's just that it didn't impress me, like, or I didn't want to be a developer from the start. And I had been working part time in the technical sales for quite some time. So I thought I would break it to make a career in the technical sales, more of a pre-sales kind of a thing. And then fortunately, this opportunity clicked in. I got I just gave an interview here for this role. I mean, basically anything that is apart from dev that impresses me. So I thought, like, why not give a try? I had to prepare for some time, and still I had to go through a basic round of coding. I had to solve this, and then after a rigorous interview, I made it. And one thing is, like, since it was a startup, I mean, startup in the sense, like, we are now 11th year. I mean, since the firm was small and like it was scaling up, I got an opportunity to like work across different stuff. And I'm sure that any similar cloud companies, or like say like Freshworks or ChargeBee, or any such technology companies that are that are in the forefront, will provide the same opportunity to work on like different stacks. So I think that answers your question, Raghavi. And any more questions?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. What is the difference between DevOps and Docker? Okay. Thanks for the question, Vijay Ganesh. So DevOps is a designation or more of a role that you would be doing, and Docker is a technology actually. So so it's good that you got to know about the Docker. I would suggest you to like take a few readings about what Docker does. It is mostly on the OS level, like say that hides the software dependencies, or like that takes care of the dependency. And I may get more technical, but it's mostly containerization and like stuff like that. So let's say you don't how to say you don't want an actual system to make the system work for you. Let's say going ahead with the same example of Rapido, you may not want a a physical system with an actual CPU, like say a 8 GB RAM of CPU, or like a whole lot of stuff to do a simple task of like taking a request. So Docker solves that containerization problem, or say like breaking down the usability problem, or like it's more of like separating the software dependency from the hardware. So you can even let's say if some of you guys have most of you guys would have a Windows system. Let's say you want to run a Linux OS, then installing a dual boot, you can just install a Docker container and pull a Linux image and just start using it. So it's good that you bring up Docker. And as a DevOps engineer, or like you may work more on the Docker environment, it's good to know basic things about Docker on Kubernetes. Okay. Any last question? I have like 2 more minutes before I jump into my work. Okay. Okay, so that's it from my side. Like, if you have any more questions, or like if you want more to know about like what is happening, or like how can I choose my career, or like would this suit me, like feel free to drop in a LinkedIn message. My ID is like I'm going to share here in the chat. So I've shared in the comment chat. Like, if you know want any suggestions from me, please feel free to drop a ping, and then I would definitely take time to reply. Okay. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, staffs, for the providing me this opportunity. So, is there any other thing, ma'am?
Thank you, Abhinandan. It was very informative and useful. Just one formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. It was very informative. I think